might move it more like this. Okay, and we're live, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Harmonious Happy Hour. This Friday. So this show is for those of us at home on a Friday who are looking for something with a little more depth, a little more nourishment of the soul. Today, I'm going to be covering some topics on Dark Night of the Soul. If you're going to shake your butt to try to distract me, come here and do it. Come say hi at least then. Kingsley wants to shake his little booty in front of me to try to distract me. Okay, shake your booty before you go. He's going out to karaoke. Go ahead, baby. Come shake your butt.
Shake your booty.
Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Kingsley's going out for his throat chakra nourishment for karaoke, and I'm staying in tonight and doing the live. Scrappy has already had his throat chakra nourishment by singing with his mama. Sing, sing. You're the cutest little man. Okay, guys. So naturally, now Kingsley has joined in. Okay, so naturally, we just have to get that goofiness out of our system to kind of clear that throat chakra and get out the just. Bye, sweetheart. Thank you, honey. Thanks for helping me set up. Bye. So now it's just us, guys. So first things first, this is Harmonious Happy Hour. So I want to get started with a little beverage. So everybody, if you're at home and you're looking for a little more, a little deeper connection and a little more nourishment for what's going on this planet regarding our human experience than just the surface level of people coming in and, ooh, look at what I just watering, of people just having kind of everyday conversation and keeping it surface level. It's interesting because when I have conversations that with people that I meet, whether it be at the gym or at my job or anywhere else, people just say, oh my God, like I'm so sick of the superficial layer of just always like, hi, how are you? What do you do for your job? What do you do for this? Just like really surface level questions. And judging by the number of people who constantly are saying that they needed something more, they needed a bigger connection, something deeper and a bigger nourishment, it's like, well, if all of us are feeling this, then clearly we say this world is so surface level, but if all of us are feeling this and we're not feeling satiated, then clearly there is a lot of depth within all of our souls. If that's being satiated and nurtured when we're around people in environments that fuel us with a little more depth, you know? So thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I'm getting my beverage ready. I have my little wine glass here, and I'm going to have Powerade with cherry limeade. No, I'm not. I don't have a sponsorship. So, but I do want to have my little glass ready. I do want this to feel relaxed and just everybody discussing ideas and experiences. I don't like the idea really of a lot of authority regarding like getting into an ego match about who has experienced more or who has more credentials. I'm really about experiential knowledge. And what I mean by that is going forward with an experience of something and then getting a context for it. I've noticed while meditating, observing the patterns of my life, that I do much better. I get a more honest and clear feedback when I don't go from textual knowledge, but experiential knowledge. So an event happens in my life, I experience something. It may feel overwhelming, it may feel crazy and wild, but you walk through that experience with faith. You know that you've been held by the divine intellect in the past, and you've overcome situations that you never thought you could. And then all of a sudden, you're safe through this new thing. And then once we relax and we process and we have time to sit in the stillness and realize what really went down, you know, and why. And then this is how we, bye sweetie, bye. This is how we build our trust. It's the similar, somebody used a long time ago an example of a chair holding us. You sit in that chair and it holds you, and you keep repeating it and you keep repeating it, and pretty soon it's not even something you think about. You keep plopping your butt down on that chair because you believe 100% that it's going to hold you. And the same goes with building our intuitive knowledge, and learning to rely on the spirit voice, the intuitive voice, versus the fear voice and the ego voice, and the one that's holding us back from experience because of fear, rather than allowing us to feel fear and walk through the experience and realize, my God, we were being held. We were held again and again. And it really, faith is a muscle, and it really is through that experience of continuously being delivered through our life trials that we realize that we are always being held by something bigger than our ego. And what I mean by that is we get into a situation and our mind says, I see no way out of this. I see no end game. I don't know how I'll get over this heartbreak. I don't know how I'll get over the fear of rejection. I don't know how I'll get over the insecurity of losing my job, or not knowing how to connect to people, or any other insecurity. And then somehow we look back on our lives, if we're willing to sit in the quietness and the stillness and observe our lives and see how we've been delivered, and we see a pattern there, you know, and we then know that we've been delivered through something bigger than our mind's ability. How many times in life have we gotten through a situation that our mind literally could not think of an okay solution? We thought, there's no way I'm going to get through this experience. I will never not be heartbroken. I will never not be insecure. I will never not get over this fear, this anxiety. And yet each day we change and we grow. And I urge everybody to sit in the gratitude of every experience that you've been delivered from, and let that calm your fear of the deeper challenges in life. Really rest in that. Awake. Now we're going to get more specifically into the dark night of the soul. And in talking about that, I want to say that spiritual awakening does not make life easier by any means. It doesn't give life answers by any means. It expands your ability. First of all, it expands your context for what life is. So we no longer protect ourselves by repressing pain. So we actually feel feelings of pain that we've never let in before, that formerly the ego has protected with denial, jealousy, anger, rejection. Denial, ego, jealousy, envy, different things like, or victimhood. These are all ways that we've actually protected ourselves from feeling the depth of true pain, from going into that vulnerable state and saying, it hurts so bad that somebody else has success. Why do I never have success? It hurts so bad that somebody else has love. Why do I never have love? And then boldly and openly, with a childlike vulnerability, saying, I think I can too. I've lived life long enough to go, oh, I never thought I'd have love. I've never experienced love. And then we all get to. Or we think that we're never going to get a great job that's in alignment with who we are. And yet it happens. So I know we have all had success stories, but by saying, well, that person has that because their life is set up for them and mine is not, or screw them, they make it look like life is so good, but actually it's really not. That also protects us from the pain of just saying, it hurts that I want something and I'm afraid I'm never going to get it. My soul craves a deeper connection, a deeper intimacy, for life to be bigger and more adventurous and wonderful than before, and yet I'm not getting it. So all those things that we use to kind of squash down the pain protect us until we strengthen our soul our soul state and our intuitive state to be strong enough to walk through the pain openly, and to let life teach us that it's way bigger than we thought it was. And it was way bigger than what we even thought we needed at the time. Okay, I'm way thirsty now, so let me take a drink of my Powerade cherry limeade concoction. Woo, sorry guys. That's way good. That's better than I thought it was gonna be. I must have mixed it just right, or I could be that thirsty. So guys, today the specific title is Dark Night of the Soul. But I don't want anybody to think that only if you've been through or are going through a spiritual dark night of the soul, or if you don't know it's called that, or you don't use that label, that this isn't for you. Because anytime we're all going through challenges in our life, we come here to learn bravery, compassion, non-judgment, openness, faith, surrender. We come here to learn all those things. It is so rare that we have all those things together at one time. Come on, what's the probability? So we're constantly working on something, and we know that when we incarnate into this human experience, that perfection will not last. And it would become stagnant, and probably our gratitude when it would inevitably fall away if we were always just given what we wanted in a snap. So spiritual awakening is not an ego endeavor. It's not something that you do because you want to have a challenge-free life. It's not something you do because you want to have bragging rights. Okay, it's an honest approach to life and life's hardships, and opening up to life being both more painful and more beautiful than we could have possibly ever anticipated. And so people always say, like, what have you gained during spiritual awakening? What have you gained from a Kundalini awakening? First of all, you don't gain anything. You lose your ego. You lose all your projections. It allows you to step back without all your conditioning, all the things that said, I'm not going to feel the pain of feeling less than, especially guys in the day of social media, when we're all comparing, we're looking at different people's lives, and really different people's highlight reels is what we're looking at. And we always think the grass is greener on the other side. And that's a very easy thing to do in this time, in this social media age. But it's really not a fair analysis of life. And I think once we're able to be more transparent with ourselves, we generally become strengthened and more able to be transparent with life and other people. And I think it doesn't benefit us necessarily to only show our highlights, especially for people who are easily influenced into thinking that that's what other people's lives looks like. So people have asked me, like, okay, with the dark night of the soul, I'm feeling pain that I've never felt before, and it's not situational, meaning you're feeling a kind of angst and anxiety, but it's not because of a specific trigger. So it has no conceptual or contextual meaning in your life. So for me, mine started around 2015, 2016. And I felt in between extreme creative energy and putting together a book about a character who's a fictional book about a character whose emotional repressions caused her to have a physical mutation. She kind of pulled out of her skin and just committed this fairly violent act. And in exploring that character, I was able to kind of let the energy, the ego, go down to slumber long enough for the energy to start rising from the, like moving through the sacral chakra, releasing from the root and moving through the sacral. And that's like a very primal, lusty, lower chakra energy when it releases from there. And it can be really overwhelming and intimidating in its sensuality, actually. It can be intimidating to the person if they don't think of their personality as that. But like I said, a Kundalini awakening expands us. We no longer think of ourselves as, oh, I'm always the happy one. Oh, I'm always the mellow one. I'm always the one making dirty jokes, or I'm the one that never makes dirty jokes. I'm the one that gets attention through my sexuality, or I'm the one who never opens up my sexuality. It just drops all those concepts, all the concepts and the identifiers and the conditioning that we put on ourselves, it just breaks. When we go into the ego, to the spirit mind and rest out of the ego mind, it just breaks away all those. And we start embracing what we are from every platform of this earth. And we look at the ground and the dirt and the earth and we sink. And this does this through every aspect of us. So we can feel it in the lower chakra energies. We can feel it in the throat. Do you see how that kind of earthing, that digging in, that ground, that grounding, it can express itself when it moves through the chakra system, guys. It can express itself through physical posturing that puts in like I'm here and I'm here to stay and I belong on this earth and I'm rooted in my survival centers. These might be the branches of the trees, guys, but they can sway every which way, but my feet and my earth and my trunk is going to stay grounded in no matter what. Okay, so that's that. When that starts expressing through the primal centers of procreation and new life, it can be very intimidating. And that's also where we can experience a lot of the dark nights of the soul, and we can experience an aspect of this earth self that has a lot of depth, and it's scary. It's scary to us, and it's intimidating to other people who can sense through any one of our expressions. Whether it be that we write or draw or sing or dance or talk, or any number of ways that we express, there's something that kind of flicks to our intuition vibration that flicks and signals to our fellow humans that this person is capable of that depth. So that's why when we look to artists and we see that they're able to tap into a place that is beyond that of the conceptual mind, they've entered another platform beyond just the grounded physical, conceptual rules of this earth. And we envy that usually because it opens up a part of us. It allows us to grow and transform, and it makes us feel safe to experience an aspect of ourselves. It puts a spell on us to allow ourselves to go into an aspect of ourselves that we were scared to honor, that we repressed otherwise, so we were scared to honor that part. So I was talking about the depth, really grounding in. And then on the lighter side, when we look at earth, so more for the grounding, we have like wild animal, the tigress, the lion that fight for power and fertility and virility, and they fight for that raw animalistic survival centers, who's the most powerful and raw and vital. So we have that in this world when we observe the entire world for all it is. And then on the higher selves, we have a much lighter energy. We have a flow from the feminine. This one doesn't fight for power and survival. It flows. It dances in and out of consciousness. It does not fear for its survival. It does not feel that it needs to prove anything to anyone. It casts a spell of beauty and wonderful and new life, and it nurtures the seed of growth and asks it to grow up and whispers, grow. It's safe. It's safe. So think of that more as the sky. And when we look at the sky, no matter how rough life is, we go out there and we see a new painting across the sky every day. And we just go, wow, look at the wonder and the beauty of this earth. That no matter the violence going on or our deepest fears or our deepest pains coming out, we look out and there's a beauty and a lightness and a balance that is constantly staying intact. Well, even we can feel like the world is madness. We see how the earth remains in balance, even while we're not. And so by embracing all those aspects and realizing that we are a part of both the animal nature and the spirit nature, and that we can really line up all those chakras and move through them and dance in and out of consciousness in different forms. I think of this in regards to shape shifting. Like, I don't know what's going to happen after this, but I really hope, like after this life, I really hope that eventually, like when we get to a certain level of human consciousness, I really hope that we can just like transform with our consciousness. So my name's Angela. For those of you who don't know, I probably didn't introduce myself that good, but anyways, imagine that I get to keep my Angela identity, but I get to say, I want to go fly with the birds, and I get to experience flight as a bird, or I want to go roar with the lions, or I want to go perch up with the flamingos, or whatever that may be. Imagine that we get to do that, shapeshift, well, shifting our consciousness into different things, but we get to keep that identity. Like, that would be amazing if there's another realm of human existence. Like maybe once we go through life of all different forms and we learn from each one of those forms, eventually we could like shapeshift. That'd be awesome, right? So I really don't think that, now we're being more realistic about life, but I really think in our life journeys, God divinity doesn't put a desire in our heart for something unless he means he, it, she, it's just a concept. But unless the divine that we're working with, our spirit self, wants us to explore that desire and follow our hearts, I don't think that desire is put there just like for fun, just to kind of think about sometimes. I think it's a push for us to open that gate and to experience things in its own divine timing. So in talking about kind of like the groundedness and the base of the tree versus the branches, when we're talking about dark night of the soul, we're entering more into the groundedness and the depth and where the seed grows in the dark. And that can be really intimidating. We can feel during a dark night of soul that we are shut off, that we are disconnected from life. We can think that we fell out of grace, especially if we had an amazing, heightened Kundalini awakening, spiritual, like a energy upgrade where we felt just profoundly connected to humanity and God and nature. And then you sink into this disconnection because the wires are being disconnected and rerouted and rewired within the brain. And they can't be rewired without being disconnected. And so there's all an extreme like divine intelligence to this. But when we're in pain and we're facing pain that we've never opened ourselves up to before and we've never faced head on, we can absolutely feel, if we're still in the linear mind, in the, what's the word I'm looking for? The contrasted mind that says right and wrong, the judgmental mind, we can think that we've done something wrong to fall out of grace if we're experiencing the dark night of the soul. So for me, like I said, around 2015, amongst energy upgrades, I was feeling a divine, profound depression that didn't have anything to do with my circumstances. And I actually thought about suicide. And I was just so profoundly unhappy with being in my conditioned self. I was so profoundly unhappy with the conditioning and the rules that I had set for myself and the limit in which I thought happiness resides and the limitedness in which I thought I would experience life. But I couldn't, you're afraid to admit how unhappy you are until you have a solution. It can be so hard to, in faith, allow yourself to surrender to feelings of unhappiness. But once we get into a more Kundalini mind where it's not about contrast, that it's just about being on some level of the spectrum and that they all serve their purpose, once we arrive at that place and we don't judge as good and bad anymore, we simply judge, or we simply allow and have faith and surrender that every one of our experiences are for a reason. And so nothing is bad anymore. No part of the transformation is like, oh no, you did something wrong, don't go to that place. Because you absolutely cannot experience the heightened beauty of life without allowing yourself to fall into the depths of the pain, die off to that pain by experiencing it. Pain comes up, pain goes out. So in order for us to die off to that, we have to face through it. We have to see what brought us through that pain. By feeling it and allowing it to transform through our body, we're allowing it in our chakra system. We're allowing ourselves to transcend that pain. And once you get in rhythm with that and you get used to halting the judgment mind and saying, I'm uncomfortable, this is bad, and looking at it linear, like, oh, do you feel better or worse than you used to feel? And thinking if you feel worse, you've done something wrong. It's not about feeling all the time. Spirit is beyond even our emotions. I think people get emotions confused with intuition. Intuition is like a softer, more confident voice that simply says, jump, go, it's time. But it's not really dramatic. It's not over emotional. It's not like, I'm going to meet the love of my life and he's going to be amazing and there's going to be no trials and I'm going to get the most fabulous career. It's not like the state of affirmations. Okay. It's just a quiet voice that says, partake in life, partake in this adventure, and do not be afraid, but allow yourself to be afraid. Walk through anyways, and allow life's divine intelligence to get you through each thing in life. And pretty soon you won't have to think in terms of good or bad, right or wrong, because honestly, that's lower. That's something that kind of the human mind ego created to keep us from having new experiences that we're not ready for. So even fear, a lot of people fear Kundalini Kriyas. They fear the openness of the energy coming through. They fear seeing it in other people, and they fear that they could be activated through it, clearly. And that fear has a design. It has a reason. What is it? To prevent people who are not ready to walk through that fear from doing it. So anytime we have fear in our lives, if it's too high and it outnumbers our ability to move forward, we're not ready. It's just a sign of not readiness. And so we run, we hide, we try to get away. We find different ways to repress. And running and hiding is all part of the process too. How many of us just say, well, I tackled every one of my fears, and when I did, everything went smoothly? No, it didn't, because sometimes we're not ready. So I have this great book that I'm going to read a little bit from that kind of gives us an idea of it just really explains what I'm trying to convey about settling into the dark night of the soul and allowing the feelings to pass through. So like I was saying before, I did have suicidal thoughts. I really kind of think hard about how much I want to share about my personal journey and how incredibly deep the dark night of the soul Kundalini awakening part can get, because I don't want to influence people who might be in the dark night of the soul to go to a depth that is overwhelming for them. And people who are actively in Kundalini awakening can be very vulnerable and open to influence. And so I kind of just really want to make sure that I'm in alignment with spirit for everything that I allow out of throat chakra. So the people who are really close to me know my exact trajectory. And then eventually maybe I'll share more. But for now, I think it will suffice for me to say that in between the energy upgrades, I did actually feel feelings of suicide. And I thought, because I also didn't want to just leave this life without doing some good, I actually fantasized about like scenarios in which I could like jump on a bomb or, be in a shootout situation where I could jump in front of somebody so that I could leave this life, but having done some good, not just for no reason. And so, and then I also, because I was going through an energy upgrade, so I had a lot of creative energy, I also had suicide thoughts in the form of art, in the form of creative endeavors. But I won't get too deep into that now, because if you're in the dark night of the soul, you really don't, I can give you a little validation that having ideas to want to die are in a spiritual awakening, not in the form of like chronic depression, but in the form of a spiritual awakening. Having feelings of wanting to die are the ego itself that wants to die. It isn't that the spirit wants to no longer be an incarnation in this human body anymore, in a literal sense. It does not want to literally leave. Otherwise, if that was the case, we would just go like so many other people go. We would get sick and die, or we would get in a car accident, or many of the other number of reasons that a person just, their soul leaves, and their spirit leaves this body, and they go back to home base and reassess what's going to be next. But the feelings and the desire to want to die are to die to our conditioned self, our ego self. So as long as we understand that those feelings are a natural progression of the dark night of the soul, it can give us the bravery, the courage, the internal fortitude to sit in those thoughts without acting and move through it and know that it's all part of a divine thing. Now, this is not people who actually have like an imbalance of the brain, where there is not enough dopamine, there is not enough serotonin and stuff like that. Chronic depression is going to be different, and may even need to be medicated. And if that's the case, by all means, if at any time in your life, if you need your medicine, take your medicine. And people who have mental illness that is just within them, it's not part of a Kundalini awakening or a spiritual awakening, they are just as lucky as any one of us who got vaccinated and now we don't get polio, or any of the number of other things that we got when we were sick. We got bronchitis or pneumonia and infection, and we took antibiotics or whatever. We were saved by that. And if there's an imbalance of the brain that's chronic, then obviously that needs to be treated with medication. Not necessarily in the case of Kundalini awakening, because you want to be able to answer to the part of yourself that wants to die away, to the part of the ego self that is asking, please root me back into the earth. Let go of me to create space within my consciousness for a new level of journeying and a new level of evolution and transformation. To think of life in a less limited, smaller space than I've ever think. Like life is a bigger adventure than the brain, than the concept of the mind could ever anticipate. Allow me the bravery and the internal fortitude to move in to the phases of nature, the circle of life that no longer fears death, that understands that pain and repression and emotional stuff is a part of a letting go. There's this great, one of my favorite quotes that says, we do not change until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. And as human beings, we are made to not want discomfort. We do not want pain. Many of us will do almost anything in our power to avoid pain, right? So it's fine that that's within us. It has its purpose. When we're ready to evolve spiritually, we can start to understand that pain is not bad or good. It's a tool in the box of creation. So if you think of an artist and they want to paint a beautiful sky, they're going to have contrast. In order to experience life as a human to its fullest and say, I'm ready, life, bring it on. Let me experience pain and pleasure and beauty and everything in between, and let me root myself deeper as a more transformed, evolved being through all these experiences and through just accepting life and embracing it. Nothing we're in is about get me out of this situation. That's the ego, that's the fear voice that says, this is painful, I don't want anything to do with it, make the pain go away no matter the cost. That's so human, but that's clearly the ego voice. And as we progress through life, I think because humans have such a especially great adventure to learn between their fear voice and their ego voice. So we see that, like, when we observe animals, we see that they're just kind of in their dimension. You know, they don't sit and ponder the way we do. They don't stew over what are we doing here? What are the answers to life? What are our life lessons? Why do we experience pain? They don't stew over consciousness and awareness the way that we do. So we're in a really special, unique place to embrace who we are in spirit, but while in physical form. And so after that, you know, once we really come into contact with our spiritual self, life opens up to a brand new adventure. So it's like the difference between you went through elementary school and it had its lives and its lessons, and then later high school was a whole different dimension. And then when you actually get to choose what you were here to do, maybe by the time you go to college or go into any extended programming, or if you're a yoga instructor, you go to yoga classes, you know, whatever it is, you get to choose, and then you get an advancement in that. So it's not that there's a good or bad to any of those stages, is that they were all there for a reason. So anyways, like I said, guys, let me take a sip. Sorry, Korea's. So good. Cheers if anybody's drinking. Okay, guys. So I'm going to read from a few pages from this book. It's called Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, I guess. Anyways, follow with me just a little bit through this, and so that I can, from these words, kind of convey what I'm trying to say about being able to embrace the dark night of the soul. Okay, the first phases of love, and this is not love just in terms of like it's not just in terms of love regarding romantic love. It's in terms of any adventure that we take on. Okay. In all the tales, there is material that can be understood as a mirror reflecting the illnesses or the well-being of one's cultures or one's inner life. Also in tales, there are mythic themes that can be understood as describing stages of an instruction for maintaining balance in both inner and outer worlds. While the skeleton woman could be interpreted as representing the movements within a single psyche, I find this tale most valuable when understood as a series of 7 tasks that teach one soul to love another deeply and well. Let me skip on a little bit. Humans who do not know any better have the proclivity to approach love the same way that a fisherman in a story approaches the hunt. I hope I get a big one that will feed me for a long time to come, one that will excite me, make my life easier, one I can brag about to all the other hunters back home. Okay, so she's stating here that every one of us, when we enter life from an immature standpoint, all we want is big. We want big love. We want the best career. We want the best looks. We want the best bod. We just want the big catch, whether it be in love, career, life, whatever. We want the big one, okay? Just the little kid that wants the most candy and doesn't yet understand that too much candy has its drawbacks, okay? So let me continue reading. This is the natural progression of the naive or famished hunter. The very young, the uninitiated, the hungry, and the wounded have values that revolve around the finding and the winning of trophies. So we're talking about the ego, guys. The very young truly do not know what they are seeking yet. The hungry seek sustenance, and the wounded seek consolation for previous losses. Yet all will have treasure happen upon them. Okay, so by saying this, we're saying no matter what route we take in life, whether we think it's like really, whether we're in a victim mentality and we think, oh, no good thing will ever come our way, or whether we're in a cocky mentality and think we only get the best, no matter what, all of us will have a big catch in our life, and most likely several times. When one is in the company of the great powers of the psyche, in this case, the life, death, life woman, and one is naive, then one is sure to get more than what is fishing for. So often we entertain the fantasy of being fed from the deep nature through a love affair, a job, or by money, and we hope these findings will last for a long time. We would like not to do any further work. In truth, there are even times when we would like to be fed without doing much work at all. In reality, we know nothing of value ever develops this way, but we wish it anyways, because we're human. To lay inert and only dreaming of the perfect love is easy. It is an anesthesiation from which we might never recover, but for ruthlessly snagging something valuable, yet outside of our awareness. Guys, this is talking about awakening. It's outside our awareness. It's outside our consciousness. We are catching a bigger fish than we know what to do with. We are supposed to be overwhelmed. It is supposed to be bigger and badder and wilder and more adventurous than anything we've ever experienced in life. It's supposed to be wild. What else did you here for? What else did you come here for? Like, let's get our money's worth. Let's get the ticket of adventure in this life. Come on. Have that adventure mentality. Don't come here for comfort, guys. Fear is a part of being a human. We know that, okay? But it's also part to transcend, okay? To lay inert and only dreaming of a perfect love is easy. It is an anesthesiation from which we might never recover, but for snagging something valuable, yet outside of our awareness. For the naive and wounded, the miracle of the psyche's ways is that even if you are half-hearted, irreverent, didn't mean to, didn't really hope to, don't want to, feel unworthy to, aren't ready for, you will accidentally stumble upon treasure anyways. Take heart. It's going to happen for all of us. We will stumble upon treasure. Okay? Then, guys, it is our soul's work to not overlook what has been brought up, to recognize treasure as treasure, no matter how unusual its form, and to consider carefully what to do next. The fisherman motif shares some archetypal symbolism with that of the hunter, and these two represent, among many things, the psychological elements of humans that seek to know, that strive to nourish self through merging with the instinctual nature. In stories, as in life, the hunter and fisherman begin their quest in one of three ways: in a sacred, a mean-spirited, or bumbling manner. In the skeleton woman story, we can see that the fisherman is a little on the bumbling side. He is not mean-spirited, but he does not exactly have a sacred attitude or intention towards others. Sometimes lovers begin this way also. At the beginning of the relationship, they're only fishing for a little excitement or a little help me make it through the night, antidepressant. Without realizing it, they unwittingly enter a part of their own and the other person's psyches in which skeleton woman resides. That's the dark night of the soul, guys. That's the repressed pain. While their egos may be fishing for fun, this physical pace is sacred ground for skeleton woman. If we troll these waters, we are guaranteed to hook her for certain. The fisherman thinks he is pursuing simple nourishment in nature, when in fact he is bringing up the entire elemental feminine nature, the neglected life, death, life, nature. Guys, that's the ability to let life go into the circle of death and release and come back around to life. It cannot be overlooked, for wherever new life begins, the death queen shows up. Okay? That's the truth, guys. For wherever new life begins, the death queen shows up. That's why I wore black tonight. This is the point that I wanted to say. Do not fear your pain. Do not fear the discomfort and that which is coming to the earth to release itself, to make room for the new. We are a physical being. We can literally only hold so much in our consciousness and in our psyches. Things need to die before a new level of awareness can truly come in and flourish and be transformed within us. Okay? It cannot be overlooked, for wherever new life begins, the death queen shows up. And when this occurs, at least for the moment, people pay rapt in fearful attention. In the opening motif, that of a woman lying under the ocean, skeleton woman is similar to Sedna, a life figure from Intuit mythology. Sedna is a great deformed creation goddess who lives in the Intuit world. Sedna's father threw her over the edge of his kayak, for unlike other dutiful daughters of the tribe, she had run off with the dogmen. Like the father in the fairy tale, the handless maiden, Sedna's father chopped off her hands. Her fingers and limbs sank to the bottom of the sea, where they became fish and seals and other life forms that sustain the Inuit ever after. What was left of Sedna sank to the bottom of the sea. There she became all bones and long, long hair. In the Inuit rite, earthbound shamans swim down to her, bringing her peace food to quiet her snarling dog husband and guardian. The shamans comb her long, long hair while singing to her, begging her to heal the soul or body of a person above. For she is the great Angak magician. She is the great northern gate of life and death. Skeleton woman who spent an eon lying under the water can also be understood as a woman's unused and misused life-death life force. In her vital and resurrected form, she governs the intuitive and emotive abilities to complete the life cycles of birthing and endings, grievings and celebrations. She is the one who peers at things. She can tell when it is time for a place, a thing, an act, a group, or a relationship to die. This gift, this psychological sensitivity, awaits those who would lift her to consciousness through the act of loving another. There it is, guys. I just love this author. She is so in it, guys. And she has let it mature and serve her through her throat chakra. And so I just want to do a little vocal kriya of gratitude and immense celebration for this person's writing that brought so much insight and ability to conceptually understand that which we are brought. So I'm just going to do a gratitude. So, guys, I just want to give gratitude for the insights that come through my own experiences and through all our shared life experiences. When we go through something so hard and we don't have the resolve and we don't have the understanding and we caught a bigger fish than we were able to handle, we can really feel down on ourselves. We can really feel like something went wrong. And when we are provided the insight after we're able to come in from that huge adventure and come in for comfort and food and sustenance. And here there are people and guides, and we attract different things in our life that said, this was exactly supposed to happen. You did it. Come on in, rest, and think about what you've learned. You sat on the chair again. It held you despite all your fears and everything else, and you became new and better and wonderful and remade, and you're an absolutely different version with a new consciousness and a new awareness circulating through you than you ever were before. That's a reason for gratitude. That is what brings that's what brings new life into us and new adventure for life. It makes us able to be braver and more courageous to take on new paths and new transformations in life. Okay, I'm just going to read a little more. A part of every person resists knowing that in all love relationship, death must have her share. We pretend we can love without our illusions about love dying. Pretend we can go on without our superficial expectations dying. We can't, guys. Our superficial expectations, our conditioning must die. We pretend we can progress and that our favorite flushes and rushes will never die. But in love, psychically, everything becomes picked apart. Everything, nothing is left alone. The ego does not want this to be so. Yet it is how it is meant to be. And the person of a deep and wildish nature is undeniably drawn to the task. What dies? What dies, guys, in a dark night of the soul? Why are we going through this? Tell me what dies. What is taking so long to cause pain and discomfort and disconnection in this world? What is so damn busy dying while we're feeling miserable? What dies? Illusion dies. Expectations die. Greed for having it all, for wanting to have all beauty only. all of this dies, because love always causes a descent into the death nature. We can see why it takes abundant self-power and soulfulness to make this spiritual commitment. When one commits to love, one also commits to the revivification of the essence of Skeleton Woman and all her teachings. The fisherman in the story is slow to realize the nature of what he has caught. This is true of everyone at first, guys. It is hard to realize what you are doing when you are fishing in the unconscious. If you are inexperienced, if you do not know that down there lives the death nature, once you find out what you are dealing with, your impulse is to throw it back. We become the mythical fathers who throw their wild daughters out of the kayak and into the sea. We know that relationships sometimes falter when they move from the anticipatory stage to the stage of facing what is really on the end of one's hook. This is as true of the relationship between a mother and her 18-year-old child as it is between parents and their teenager, as between friends, as between lovers of a lifetime or just a little time. The relationship begun in all goodwill flaps and sways and sometimes staggers with when the sweetheart stage is over. Then, instead of enacting a fantasy, the more challenging relationship begins in earnest. And all one's craft and wisdom must be called into action. We must call forward every part, every facet of we who we are. This is not taking from our conditioning. This is not taking from mainstream culture. We must call together from the earth, from our deepest soul, everything that we are to take on this spiritual task. What is not awesome about that, guys? What is not beautiful and soul-bending and wonderful and transformative and transcending as that? Why not partake in that? No, it isn't for superficial things. It's not to say that we're one-faceted toward greed or celebrity or money or just the plain, really limited part of what's successful on this planet. That when we go through a spiritual awakening, a lot of us think like, oh, here, we're going to do affirmations. And is this like the law of attraction where you get everything you want, where you wish it into existence and that happens? It's like, oh no, it's way bigger and more beautiful and badasser than that. You're going to open up parts of yourself and your consciousness that you did not know existed. You're going to be challenged in ways you didn't know exist. And guess what's going to come after that? You're going to experience beauty that you never thought possible. In the middle of one of the hardest parts of my awakening, several times something said, it is going to be unbearably ugly before it becomes exotically beautiful, like overwhelmingly beautiful. And I experienced both sides of that scale. And once you do that, and once you get through the initial stages of the spiritual awakening where you're experiencing a depth of yourself that you actually think something's wrong. So a lot of people run to treat it. In this day and age of mental illness, actually sometimes even becoming part of a trend, it's easy to run to calling it mental illness instead of a spiritual awakening. Some of us go, oh no, maybe I'm just lying to myself. Maybe this isn't really a spiritual awakening. Guys, for us to have any form of an awakening or evolution in life, it doesn't have to be a Kundalini awakening. It doesn't have to have the term of a spiritual awakening. Anytime you're transforming in life, you are literally dying to your old self and opening up to your new self. And that will all require a death life stage. I'm going to read a little bit further. The skeleton woman who lies under the water represents an inert form of deep instinctual life, which knows by heart the creating of life, the creating of death. If lovers insist on life of forced gaiety, perpetual pleasures, and other forms of deadening intensity, if they insist on sexual donner and blitz, thunder and lightning all the time, or a torrent of the delectable and no strife at all, there goes the life, death, life, nature, right over the cliff, drowned in the sea, and we do not get the benefits. We do not sponge from the experience, the insights that this true treasure is trying to bestow us with. Refusing to allow All the cycles of life and death in the love relationship causes a skeleton woman nature to be ripped from her psychic lodgings and drowned. Then the love relationship takes on a strained, let us never be sad, let us always have fun face to be maintained at all costs. The soul of the relationship sinks out of sight, set to drift underwater, senseless and useless. Guys, we have to dig deeper. We have to catch the bigger fish, and we have to answer to everything that requires of us. Okay, right now we're in a stage in life where social media and movies and songs and platforms give us the dopamine rush. They give us the highlight reel. They only give us the best of life. And so the groundedness and the quality is sunk beneath all that. And then we have a starved people. We have an intuitively, spiritually starved people. And so many of us are hungry for a deeper connection and are going, where is it? Where is it in me? Where is it in others? Is this all there is? Chasing of the next high, of the biggest action movie, the most sex, the most beauty, the most money. There's got to be more, okay? Skeleton woman is always thrown over the cliff when one or both lovers cannot stand or understand her. She is thrown over the cliff when we misapprehend the use of transformative cycles, when things must die and be replaced by others. If lovers cannot stand these life-death-life processes, they cannot love one another over and beyond hormonal aspirations. Throwing this mysterious nature over the cliff always causes the woman lover and the soulful force in men to become a skeleton bereft of genuine love and nourishment. As a woman often takes keen notice of biological and emotional cycles, the life and death cycles are at the center of her concern. Since there can be little new life without a decline in that which has gone previously, lovers who insist on attempting to keep everything at a psyche scintillating peak will spend their days in an increasingly ossified relationship. The desire to force love to live in its most positive form only is what causes love ultimately to fall over dead and for good. When we seek love and spiritual instinct and spiritual awareness with the same way that we seek pleasure, it will be a drug. It won't be a transformation until we all get that there's something way more deeper going on than just the 3D realm, until we embrace it and love it and find the gift of what it means to truly be awakened to an experience and move through the process. It's not a one-time thing and then you get bestowed with amazing gifts. It's a huge process. The fisherman's challenge is to face Lady Death, her embrace and her life and death cycles. Unlike other tales in which an underwater creature is captured but then released, thereby granting the fisherman a wish in gratitude, Lady Death is not letting go. Lady Death is not graciously granting any wishes. She surfaces, like it or not, for without her there can be no real knowledge of life. And without that knowing, there can be no fealty, no real love, no devotion or commitment. Love costs. It costs bravery. It costs going the distance, as we shall see. I think that's a great place to leave off, even though I could just literally read this whole book to the internet, but I don't think that you guys would be very entertained by that. Maybe you would, because it's such a great book. Really, it is. So, guys, I think I've said all that Spirit's really called me to talk about today in regards to this. So again, this was on facing the dark night of the soul. It was not really, people say how do I get out of it? How did you get out of it? You don't get out of it. You don't get out of life experiences, guys. You move through it. So the best thing to ask of divinity and creation, and to attract voices and insights that will help myself and you guys and everybody else on our journey, it's best to ask, how do I get through it? Not how do I get out of it? Because honestly, guys, when whatever plan of intelligence came forward for us to incarnate into these bodies, we were brave in spirit. We wanted to dance with awareness and consciousness. We wanted to explore the limitations of being in a human body. and in human flesh and learning compassion and love and limitations in this form, the spirit wanted that dance. So why not come closer to our spirit self, die to the ego and the conditioning that says, please, ouch, don't hurt. I don't like pain. I was taught that pain is bad. I was taught that if I'm hurt, I did something wrong. No, we didn't do anything wrong when we experienced pain. We came here for a lesson. Nobody, not one person gets out of this life without pain. There are no such lucky enough people, right? There's not. We know that. So having said that, I think that the only concept and the only understanding is that it must be part of divine intelligence for us to experience the pain of certain life processes. It has to be part of divinity. It has to be part of intelligence for us to go through that. And so do not ask to get out of it. Ask how to move through it. Okay? Thank you guys so much for listening tonight. I hope you had a fabulous, harmonious, happy hour this Friday. I hope you guys are safe and feeling great and feeling up to the task of spirituality. I wish all my fellow journeyers and spiritual seekers and those learning the difference between their intuitive voice and the nurturing divine feminine, and the difference between the ego self, the fear self that's keeping you from experience, keeping you from growing. I hope you're all able to embrace the nurturing life coach within you. Remember that the self-talk that you give yourself is inevitably going to permeate onto other people. You can't get around it. You cannot possibly fake being shitty to yourself and being a shitty internal coach and then being loving to others. It's not possible, guys. It's not possible. True love, true care, true spirit is filling the cup. It's bubbling up, it's bubbling over of great abundance, and then it just permeates into other people. They signal it. They recognize that somebody's full, and they come for that nourishment but they don't come to be filled up from that person. They come to have their part of them lit up, their own state of abundance. Okay? All right, guys, I hope some of that makes sense. I'll end it while I've gotten all over the place. Love you very much, everybody. Happy journeying, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time for Harmonious Happy Hour. Mwah.